the French know all of these things. There's this
They
idea, but they do. You know, no cappuccino after 10 a.m. was wear the proper bra. Those are like the two takeaways.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Goodbye, a new podcast from Harper's BAZAAR, where we invite celebrities, designers, models, and tastemakers to talk shop, what they buy, where they got it, and why it matters.
Hi, I'm Lynette Nylander, Executive Digital Director of Harper's BAZAAR.
And I'm Leah Cherdikoff, the Executive Editor of Harper's BAZAAR, and this is The Goodbye.
What is your goodbye this week, Leah?
I'm always remain in like hope that like I'm going to find a more perfect pair of jeans. Mm-hmm. That's really what I wear every day.
Yes, you do.
And I'm obsessed with vintage Levi's because I found out that the 501 is sort of like an elusive dream and I should just give up. It's really about the 550s and the 505s. But then also, is it about like a Silver Lake or whatever feel or whatever brand, something's going to be my Cinderella jeans. So I'm always kind of letting the internet help me, you know? Mm-hmm. So constantly trolling, searching Google and just seeing like which companies are like making the jeans that I'm looking for right now. And then I try to get specific too. Like I'm looking for straight leg, mid-rise.
Certain wash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's my goodbye. But I'm like eyeing a pair of vintage 505s right now.
A search for jeans is a lifelong battle.
What is your goodbye this week?
Okay, this goodbye was a little.
You're looking away.
I sigh. Yeah, it's a little extravagant.
That's okay.
But post Paris, I was really looking for a piece that a forever piece. I'm always thinking about.
Why? So did Paris Fashion Week just give you the shoppies or what?
I think it always does. You can't but help when you're seeing collections from the best designers in the world and you're seeing things in different shapes and colors and you're thinking about your own wardrobe and how to integrate that in. And I was really thinking about a perfect leather jacket. And I again, there are so many amazing leather jackets out there. Shout outs to the Phoebe Philo black one with the peplum. I mean, it is incredible. I would love that jacket. I still have some sort of like long lead 4-year plan to save up for that jacket. But alas, it was chocolate brown and it has incredibly butter soft leather. And I think we've been so lucky this season. There have been such incredible leather jackets and kind of different reiterations, whether it be high funnel necks or volume. And this one kind of takes all the best tenets of kind of classic leather jackets and makes it modern and new and fresh. It's Loewe's Jonathan Anderson. I'm completely obsessed with it. I shouldn't have bought it, but I did. And I know it's the good one because everywhere I've been on the subway. I was on the subway.
Are people stopping to talk to you?
And people are stopping and telling me how much they love the jacket. And I think that is really a testament to when you buy something forever, and even if it's pricey, you can really see the quality of this jacket. So I'm very excited about it. And you will be seeing me wearing it all winter because I have to get down the cost per wear, so don't judge me. Hi, goodbye listeners. Today on the podcast, we have Lauren Santo Domingo, a fixture on the New York scene, a woman of impeccable taste, and truly one of the best dressed women in the world.
Her style is refined yet daring. And guys, this is someone who clearly loves fashion. You can tell when you look at her street style or red carpet. This is someone who is having fun getting dressed.
She is an entrepreneur, an investor, a philanthropist, the co-founder and chief brand officer of Moda Operandi, and the artistic director of Tiffany Home. that is a lot of jobs. Welcome to The Goodbye, Lauren Santo Domingo.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
So, okay, I feel like I have seen images of what you've been wearing for at least the last 20 years. I've thought about pictures of you in magazines and at fashion shows, and you were really a part of being captured on street style blogs when that was a big thing. Describe your personal style philosophy.
I suppose, well, thank you for the nice introduction. I would still say evolving. I would still say as much as it's evolving, it's still very true to who I am. I grew up on the East Coast and the West Coast, so I feel like I have a a classical East Coast side, but then, from the West Coast, I love color and to be playful, and I try not to take things too seriously.
And who's on your mood board? Who was some of the inspirations and people and brands that you looked at and thought about when you get dressed?
I would say that, when I've always sort of looked to the generations like before me, I've always like looked ahead. So when I was in my 20s, I was like kind of a mess and, went out a lot. It was sloppy and I just didn't really have my shit together. So
Who does at that point?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know
I
either.
always look to like older women who, it was kind of like women in their 40s or women that were older than me that I felt like they had their life together and they had everything figured out. And there was this moment, it was, in the 90s, Kate Moss was dating Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And there were stories of them. They were, partying. They were trashing hotel rooms. It was wild. It was crazy. It looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they attended the Cannes Film Festival. And they were perfectly dressed and well turned out. And they just projected this image of like a proper couple that had their shit together. And that, I think, for me was this sort of pivotal moment where I realized that style and the way you present yourself could sort of tell a different story. And I think that was the moment where I'm like, okay, I can just fake it for a little bit and make it look like I have my shit together when in reality, I got 45 minutes of sleep. I still have bar stamps on my hands. But I definitely always look for, women who are older than me. So right now I'm in my 40s. I'm looking at these like old broads who live, decadent lives. They go to parties, have long lunches.
Name names.
Yeah, are we?
I feel like
Is this Adita Blair?
Adita Blair, like Annette De La Renta, these fabulous women. They love art. They love culture. They seem to, take advantage of all the great things in the city, museums and shows. And, I find that something, very aspirational. And then when I was in my, in my 20s, I looked to like everyone. Carolyn Bessette grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I went. She was very good friends with my babysitter, a girl who lived down the street that I was obsessed with, who was older than me. And so I'd always sort of been following her from afar, even when I was in my teens. What really I relate to is that when you look at pictures of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, right, she looks really icy and stoic and very serious, but she was wild. And she, from people that are close to her, they tell you she swore, she was loud, she was boisterous. She was not at all like her photos.
Yeah.
And, when people meet me, they often say they're very surprised that I'm outgoing and I'm friendly and I'm warm. And I do feel that she used her clothing to sort of put people at bay. And I wonder sometimes if that, as she became more settled in that role, I also married into a family that was quite serious and proper, and you find yourself wanting to fit into that mold. I definitely have gotten more comfortable over the years, and I wonder if the same would have happened for her if she would have settled in, and how would her style have sort of evolved?
Yeah, I think that's a really astute observation, because I think she's lived on in this romanticism, because we have very limited photos of her. She was famous for a certain time, and then she was gone, and people kind of pour over these photos and kind of project their own thoughts onto her and the way she dressed. And it's affirming for you to say, you remember her as a warm, inviting person. And I also think it's interesting because I was lucky enough to be hosted in your home at Fashion Week for a cocktail party you hosted for Pete Amelia of Valaya. And I can totally say that you're the same. I thought I walked into her home and I was like, oh, she's going to be, it's going to be really uptight. She was putting a baked potato with caviar, I must say, in my hand. And like, I had to go to a show. She's like, here, take it to go.
A roadie.
You know, I love that.
A roadie caviar
roadie,
potato.
Yes.
That's the right kind of elegance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your approach to shopping. I mean, I think we've got to say you're lucky enough to have your own, shopping platform that you co-founded and you run. So you get to see the best of the best in terms of collections, and you really get to be up close and personal with the pieces. How do you decide what you're going to buy each season?
When it comes to my personal style, is I often think to myself, I live in the 20s in Manhattan. I live in, Midtown. And there's something that's so applicable about that, because I feel like my style, it's like, I feel like I'm a little cooler than like the ladies on the Upper East Side, but I'm definitely like a lot uncooler than all the girls on the, downtown. Yeah. And so I feel like I live like somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first moved to New York, and I really, my two worlds in New York were very different. I had my fashion world that was really existed downtown and clubs and restaurants, and that was very much my world. But then on the flip side, I married a guy who grew up on the Upper East Side, and he had a very rich life up there. And I always felt like I was trying to go between the two. And my greatest challenge every day was like, okay, how can I dress for both? So if I'm going uptown or downtown, how can I sort of fit in both ways, honestly, without having to go home and change?
Right. Yeah. And
I do feel to some extent that sort of informed everything, where I'm like kind of just trying to be in the middle, cooler than uptown, but definitely not as cool as downtown, somewhere, midtown. But when it comes to shopping, I definitely, when I started Moda, I was it's really the same thing of bridging these two worlds. So when I moved to New York and I was working in fashion, and I had access to all these incredible runway shows and designer showrooms, and I could borrow clothes from designers and from showrooms, and I had access to just the most incredible fashion. So I definitely approach fashion where I am definitely in touch with what's going on the runway. I get excited, but I'm just too old to like change who I am. And I think I dress pretty conservatively for the day. And when I have fun, is at night. That's when I still love to get dressed up. I still love going out. So that's sort of like the fun part of fashion for me. And when I'm ordering from the runway, I'm like really looking at all the evening clothes. And
yeah. And guys, if you haven't Googled Lauren Santo Domingo evening dresses or like looks, the evening ones are really are kind of stellar. So there's lots of inspiration there. On the Good Buy, on the podcast, we love to interrogate people's buys. Like we like to get in the weeds. We want to know what it is that you've been buying. So take us back to the first buy that made you feel like you had made it, that is in your memory as something you really wanted or craved and you got, and tell us about what that experience was like.
Okay. I would say when it comes to shopping, I had parents, like my dad used to famously say, if I asked for something, he would say, if you can't get it at Walmart, you don't need it. And my mother, when I wanted something, would ask me, what are you going to wear it with, and where are you going in it? Mm-hmm. So I always really have those two things in the back of my head. She also would say the only advice she would ever give me in terms of getting dressed, no matter what phase I was going through, she would always say, like, just try to look nice. So I think I have all of those things sort of going through my head. And I think that exercise of what are you wearing this and where are you going in it has always been very helpful in getting dressed and not over consuming. I also have a 1 in, 2 out rule.
Okay.
So
talk us through it.
So like if I buy one black sweater, I have to be willing to rotate out 2.
Wow.
Oh.
Lynette doesn't understand this.
No, I understand it.
Yeah.
I want to adopt it. Tell me a bit about that philosophy, because I think we need to know. We're very over consuming, I think, as a society.
So when it's something exciting, then it's like we throw all caution to the wind, right? Fine. A gold sequin Carolina Herrera 2-piece evening set. Why not?
Yeah.
But when it comes to like my everyday staples, I would hope, as a grown-ass woman, that I would have all my, wardrobe staples, right? Pretty down pat. Do I need any more black sweaters? Do I need another tweed jacket? Keeping in mind, silhouettes change. The shrunken jacket may not be,
Right.
My sweaters are more oversized. So, taking into account, I have to be, if I want to bring something new, I have to be willing to get rid of two things to make place for it. And that's sort of my rule, and it helps me. I can lie to myself. I'm like, there's no referee here, so I tend to write rules. But that is sort of how I really approach things. So that's my rule: 2 in, 2 out. I did modeling in high school, like summer vacation, high school, and then on and off in college, and then after graduation. So the first real designer purchase I ever made was that Hermes belt with the dog, the chien belt. Mm-hmm. It was in Paris. It was the 90s. It was modeling. It just felt like a very supermodel thing to do. And it also, even then, I realized that this was something that was timeless.
Yeah.
And even then, this was, I was, of course, in those days, we were, very much overpaid. But I was still aware, even in that moment, having, remembered every single job and early morning and terrible casting and terrible photographers to get to that moment. Yeah. That I was really, it was a real moment, a real purchase for me. And I still have it. It's perfect. It's in perfect condition. Amazing. I still travel with it in its, original pouch.
Oh, you wear it. You see,
yeah, I wear it. But I'm not like a type A person, so to speak. I'm like still kind of a mess. But I do take really good care of the things that I do buy. I'm a little anal like that. Like nice hangers, and I zip things up, and
I think you've got to get into the habit of, if you're gonna invest in these pieces, that there is an aftercare, like
absolutely
commitment to things as well. It's not just a one and done.
Yeah.
Thank you. She's looking at me like, get your
it wasn't. No, totally not. I just think that a lot of people a lot of my friends don't want to invest in tailors and things like that. Yeah. And I'm like, do you think there's something off the rack is just going to fit you perfectly? We're not, I'd love to live in the 50s and have everything couture, made to my measurements, but it isn't like that. And so you have to kind of
And also investments take care.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Yeah. When you launched Moda, and this was a big thing, and you had founded something, you were the big boss, was there anything you wore or bought yourself to sort of help you inhabit this new role?
That's a good question. I think that's when I really realized, I had grown up in fashion where, the women who had the most power and the most, the most respect were women who were somewhat unapproachable and intimidating. Mm-hmm. And I never wanted to be like that. I wanted to always be relatable and have really honest and reciprocal relationships. So that's something that I've always been really careful of. So I've always been careful not to wear clothes during the day, when I'm working, that will be off-putting or intimidating. Mm-hmm. And while sometimes, that managerial style can be more efficient, it just wasn't something that I could inhabit that role of being like that. So I think I've always been very careful of just trying to be, relatable, approachable.
Yeah. What is a buy that you regret? Have you ever bought anything and regretted it? Or have you gone through a style evolution or a moment that you're like, gosh, never again?
Or any outfits that you look back on photos?
Oh my God, there are so many. There's so many outfits. There was one year I went to, it was the Met Gala, the Anglomania. It was honoring Alexander McQueen and, you know, his
legacy.
His legacy, exactly. And so I was, you know, Andre Leon Talley, I was very lucky he would like dress me up from time to time.
What an amazing person to be.
Yeah, not complaining. Yes. And so we were getting closer to the event and I hadn't chosen anything, you know, and so we were looking through all the lookbooks and Andre pulled out this dress and it was, you know, a high collar, like an Elizabethan collar with, you know, chiffon and some jeweled, you know, jewels around the neck. A drop waist, I mean, like a very bizarre length, drop waist with a chiffon ruffle. Meanwhile,
I think I've seen you in this dress.
Yeah, and there were some feathers, ostrich feathers.
I actually know this, like sleeveless.
Yeah. And meanwhile, it's in a color, like I can't even explain the color. I would want to say like dead moss.
Yeah.
Or like some sort of, you know, mold you'd find, you know. So anyway, when you're, you know, Andre was like, you know,
this is it.
Yeah, when you're with him, you know, and that's part of fashion, right? You're like, this was it. And listen, to this day, I still love it. I stand by it. But it was a bit ridiculous. But everyone was. I mean, listen, maybe that was the forefront of everyone looking ridiculous there. And so we were going up the red carpet, which is just an intimidating moment to begin with. And we get to the bottom of the stairs, and someone says, "Lauren, Andres, like, you know, photo." This was obviously back before there were celebrities, and they wanted our photo. And Andres looks at me and he was like, "I am not taking a photo of you in that dress. You look ridiculous."
He waited till you were there just to be like, you're on your own.
Yeah. So we now have a rule. If he's going to give me any commentary, it has to be before I leave the house.
I think that feels very fair.
I think that's good commentary. I would like to say, I'm pretty sure I'm very aware of the look. You looked great.
It was great.
Also McQueen. I think, you know.
Right.
You were wearing
exactly. It was as McQueen as it could be.
It's McQueen as it could be. And I think McQueen's one of those archival McQueen. It's one of those things, you know, husbands aren't meant to get that.
No.
That's not what, you know.
Nope, they don't get it.
You're giving high fashion, couture, you know, honoring a brilliant designer. I think that's
Thank you.
fair.
Thank you.
Nailed it. As always.
Do you have any repeat buys? Anything that you always go back to, or a wardrobe staple, or
Things that you buy in multiples.
Yeah.
I would say, can we be risque? Can we be a little risque here? Excuse me to the men in our audience. I am a big proponent of proper undergarments.
Okay.
Speak to this woman over here.
Are you pro or anti?
No, I'm just lazy and I have like little kids right now and I'm just like, I can't get it together.
So
yes, I know.
So I can't tell you how many times, you know, we have women come through and they'll, you know, customers and shoppers, and we'll be putting them in these beautiful dresses and this and that. And then they'll just be wearing like, you know, the wrong bra.
Right.
Like the wrong bra, it's giving mounds, it's giving lumps, it's not giving perky.
It's not
so
giving perky.
And I always want to be like, you need to wear a proper bra if you're going to be wearing proper clothing.
So what are your...
I think the safest bet is like an Erez bra, gives the nice silhouette, like a perfect, like a proper shape. And I stand by this, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I just think if you're going to be wearing nice clothes, you need to be, you know, wearing the proper in fashion we say underpinnings.
Yes, we had another moment the other day where I did not have the proper underpinnings.
You need the proper underpinnings.
But Erez.
I think so. I think it's just one of these things that, like, you know, the French know all of these things. There's this idea, but they do. And I think that's like the one takeaway, other than, you know, no cappuccino after 10 a.m. was wear the proper bra. Those are like the two takeaways. But I stand by it, and it makes all the difference.
So foundationally setting up your clothes for success. So having, right bra, right underwear, no visible panty line. You're a big proponent of that. Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like all the youths don't wear bras anymore.
Yes.
This is true. This is true. Yeah. That's fine too, actually. I would rather no bra than the wrong bra.
The last of our buys, as a way to sort of like tell us about, all things LSD, is to tell us about your dream buy. What are you lusting after now?
I mean, I think that's my problem is I love so many things. And I think that's why, for me, moda is so important, because I love everything and I want everything to find a home. I want everyone to be connected with like that one piece that's going to sort of change their life or help them figure out who they are, or give them that like main character energy. Whatever it is, like that's my passion. I get DMs on Instagram. I'm going to, the recent one was my dad's getting remarried and I'm going to the wedding, and these are all the things I need to project and what am I wearing? And I answer all my DMs.
Really?
Yes.
I was like, wow, this is quite
Good
a
to
service.
know, yeah.
I mean, I'm not advertising it
I
or
was just
anything.
about to say, DM Lauren Santo Domingo with your
for
style.
for your specific fashion.
But I
inquiries.
do. I really, for me, it's really important to connect people with those things and to make them fall in love with fashion and to like find those items. Like I said, I'm much better at evening. There are two things that are on Moda, and both of them are extravagantly priced.
We love that.
One is a black tall boot. It's like the perfect boot. And then
Who's it by?
the Row.
The Row.
And
okay.
then there-
And why is it the perfect boot? We have to,
Yeah.
Okay,
Tell
it's
us.
the perfect boot because it feels like it's tall, right? It's tall without being like slutty.
Where does it hit?
It hits below the knee, but like not calf. It's high, but it's not like statement high. But it's flattering high.
Okay.
I also have a very strong. I think that everything should hit on your body at like the slimmest part. Right?
Yeah,
So
smart.
like I don't want my boot to cut mid calf. Why would you do that? Because that's like the widest part of your calf. You want it to cut where the calf goes
in.
You want it, yes,
At your ankle.
at
or
your
higher
either
up.
at your ankle or like right below your kneecap. So these boots seem like they hit in the perfect. They're not shiny. They're not matte. They have a really good heel. It's an uptown heel and a downtown
what's the inch
heel.
count?
I didn't look.
I think it's around like 2 or 3.
It's like,
Yeah.
two inches.
Yeah.
Which is, uptown, downtown. Perfect. And then there is a shawl coat. It's like a cocoon shawl coat. There's all these things just like wrap once around the shoulder, and there's like a coat or a knit with a jaunty scarf.
This is also from the Row.
This is also from the Row. Okay. It has like but this has like a cape. It's like a cocoon.
Yeah, you're swathed.
Yeah.
You're swathed.
That's something they've been doing a lot
you're
with their
ensconced.
coats is also you have this scarf moment that you just are kind of
It's
enraptured. Like you're like a little caterpillar.
Yeah.
You're just like in it.
And
Yeah.
with the boot,
Okay, so
Yeah, perfection.
I think you need to make this happen.
I'm wearing this. I would be wearing it to, like Fashion Week in
All right,
Paris.
where are you going? Right, the rules.
This is for Paris.
Yeah.
This is for couture in January. It's that. It's pretty special.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. I get rid of like 5 coats out,
Yeah, that
For
has
that
to
one
have
in.
a-
6 boots out. Yeah. For
The
sure.
rules have to adjust.
Oh yeah. The real would be like ka-ching. I'd be sending a lot. I'd be doing a big.
I like
trade
that
off.
though. I like, I think about you as a woman of abundance, and I'm sure you have a lot of beautiful things. And I like that you are like, no, if I have this beautiful coat, some things have got to go. It's got to be 1 in, 1 out, or 2 in. What is it? 1 in, 2 out. Or,
Yeah, 1 in, 2
1
out.
in, 2
Sometimes I'll do 1 in, 1 out. But yeah, I think that, my parents just drilled on me when I was young. And I was, I always worked. I always had a job, before I did modeling. I was a lifeguard. I was a mother's helper. I was a hostess at a restaurant. Like I always had a job. I always worked. I always bought my own things. I've always really understood, you know, the value. And when I buy something, it means something to me. And I still have that. And I still hear in the back of my head, you know, my mother, where are you wearing that? And what are you wearing it with? And I would have to tell her, you know, so from a young age, without knowing it, putting looks together, you know, I just don't look at something as a piece. I look at it, how is this going to work into my life? And so it's made me a good shopper.
And it's a good shopping philosophy. I was talking to a friend last week, and she said to me, Lynette, you know, I just think I shop for pieces. And I say, that's such a dangerous way to shop, because you're not thinking about things holistically. You're not thinking about, okay, great, you love it. You bought a pair of boots because you love them, but do you have clothes that are also you can pair them with, or wear a jacket with something else? So, you know, if something just sort of remains an outlier in your closet, then it just becomes a bit redundant.
When I buy something and I don't wear it, or I don't wear it as much as I told myself that I was going to wear it, I become very disappointed in myself. So I really hate when that happens.
Hard on yourself about purchases.
Yeah, especially because I had to give up 2 things to have it. So now I'm really
you made
mad.
a sacrifice and it didn't pay off.
Well, Lauren, that was far too short, because I could hear about your insider tips for a very long time.
Rules. I do think you should write a book.
Yes.
Of all of your rules.
Lauren Santo Domingo's Guide to Living, because you do, I think I would say, you know, observing you from afar, both of us, I think you seems like you've got it down pat.
Well, that was my goal. I always just wanted to look like someone who had my shit together and wasn't a total mess. So it's working.
So she did it.
All
goal achieved.
Thank you for being
Thanks
a
so
guest
much for having me
on The Goodbye. This was Harper's Bazaar's The Goodbye. I'm Lynette Nylander.
And I'm Leah Chernikoff.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.